The rap world just froze. Kendrick Lamar, the Compton wordsmith who's made a career out of surgical strikes, has dropped what many are calling his final warning to Drake. No subliminals, no guessing games. Just a chilling message that has fans, critics, and even rival rappers asking the same question: what happens next? The industry is holding its breath. Streaming platforms are already seeing a spike in both artists' catalogs. And social media is tearing itself apart trying to decode Kendrick's tone, timing, and intent. Some believe this is the calm before a career-defining storm, while others think it's Kendrick's way of declaring checkmate without lifting another lyrical finger. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: this isn't just another headline in hip-hop. This is a moment that could shift power, respect, Kent legacy forever. Hashtag Kendrick Lamar, #Drake, hashtag hip-hop drama, hashtag final warning, hashtag music industry. The tension in hip-hop right now feels like the quiet before an earthquake. Kendrick Lamar, known for his precision and control, has never been reckless with his words. Every syllable, every timing choice, every beat he touches carries weight. And now, he sent a message so sharp that it's shaking not just Drake's fan base, but the entire culture around them. This isn't just about two artists with differences. This is about the intersection of art, power, and ego in a billion-dollar industry. For years, Drake has dominated commercially, breaking streaming records, sitting comfortably at the top of charts, and cementing himself as the face of modern mainstream rap. Kendrick, meanwhile, has built something different: a reputation for integrity, depth, and moments so powerful they become cultural events. So when Kendrick drops what he calls a final warning, it lands like a sonic boom. Fans are asking, final warning for what? Is it a warning that Kendrick is ready to end the back and forth with one last strike? Or is it a message to Drake's entire team? A subtle but terrifying declaration that their every move has been anticipated, that every defense they've built has already been outsmarted. Sources close to both camps describe the mood as tense. Social media is overflowing with theories. Some say Kendrick has a full project ready, a concept album designed as a lyrical assassination. Others think he's already done enough, and that this warning is Kendrick declaring victory without firing another shot. The conversations online are relentless. People are comparing bar-for-bar moments from the last decade, revisiting old interviews. It's part of Claude and searching for any clue that might explain what Drake is thinking right now. Inside the industry, people who've worked with both artists say they've never seen this level of strategic pressure applied by Kendrick. He isn't tweeting wild accusations. He isn't leaking half-finished tracks. He's using silence, precision, and timing, the most dangerous weapons when combined with credibility. One thing that has truly stunned fans is how even other rappers, normally quick to take sides, are staying quiet. Big names, longtime collaborators, and even executives who usually spin any drama into marketing gold are refusing to comment. It's as if everyone knows this isn't something to play with. At top, DAWG Entertainment has remained silent. At OVO Sound hasn't issued a statement. But insiders report that calls have been happening all day. Legal teams, PR managers, tour directors, everyone trying to predict what Kendrick's next move could be. And that's the real fear: unpredictability. Kendrick has always moved in ways no one saw coming. His career-defining album drops, his Pulitzer win, his iconic performances, all perfectly timed, all impossible to copy. Meanwhile, Drake has to decide how to respond, or if he even should. Some fans argue that silence might protect his brand. Others think that in hip-hop, silence equals surrender. The debate has now become as big as the feud itself. Is this about music anymore, or is it about legacy, power, and respect? And for anyone thinking this is just another news cycle, consider this: Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal have all reported significant surges in Kendrick's back catalog, especially songs known for their sharpest bars. Hashtags like #FinalWarning, Hashtag Kendrick vs. Drake and hashtag hip-hop holding its breath are trending globally. Even journalists who normally avoid covering beef are now dissecting every bar, every image, every move, wondering if we are witnessing the beginning of one of hip-hop's biggest cultural shifts. It's not just about who wins, it's about what happens after. If Kendrick drops a final devastating piece, a lyrical strike so precise it leaves no room for reply, the entire balance of hip-hop celebrity could shift overnight. The charts, the endorsements, the narratives, even the future collaborations. Everything could be affected, so right now, the world waits. The air feels heavy with anticipation. It's the only sound louder than the fans arguing is the quiet in the industry. And sometimes, silence speaks the loudest. Kendrick Lamar, Drake, hashtag hip-hop. Beef, hashtag final warning, hashtag music. History in the making at Kendrick Lamar. At Champagni Papi, at Top Dojin, at Ova Soundif, you thought the first ripple of this warning shook the game. What came next turned whispers into full-blown alarm bells. In the hours following Kendrick Lamar's final warning, the conversation evolved beyond casual fandom and into what industry insiders are calling a cultural flashpoint. Behind the scenes, executives are nervous, not just because of what Kendrick said, but because of how he said it. No leaks, no hype tweets, no random live streams. Instead, the message landed like a coded transmission, deliberate, terrifyingly confident. The subtext screamed one thing: he's already several moves ahead. People inside a top DAWG Entertainment described Kendrick as locked in. He's not talking to press, not doing public appearances, not feeding gossip. But those who've been in the room with him say the energy is electric, like an athlete in the locker room before a title game. No wasted words, no distractions, just a singular focus. Legacy. Meanwhile, at OVO Sounds Orbit, sources say the temperature has dropped to ice. Drake is no stranger to pressure. His entire career has been built on thriving in the center of chaos. From lawsuits to chart wars, from ghostwriting accusations to family revelations mid-album rollout. He's survived storms before, but this one feels different. This one isn't about scandal or social media optics, it's about credibility. Inside the culture that raised them both, hashtags like hashtag Team KDOT and hashtag Pray for Drake are spreading like wildfire. Memes are everywhere, dissecting every line Kendrick ever dropped that could have been a subliminal shot. TikTok threads are mapping timelines, trying to connect cryptic studio photos to upcoming release dates. Reddit forums look like war rooms, filled with bar-by-bar breakdowns, strategic predictions, and digital detective work that borders on obsessive. But outside of fan theories, here's what makes this moment so unprecedented. The fear isn't about what's been said, it's about what hasn't. Kendrick's warning was a chess move, a signal to every label, every streaming platform, every peer that the game is about to shift. He's creating pressure without even rapping another verse. A kind of influence is rare and deadly in an industry where timing is everything. Some industry veterans are quietly pointing out that Kendrick has studied the greats, the precision of Jay-Z, the unpredictability of Andre 3000, the cultural anchoring of Nas, all woven into his own playbook. When Kendrick moves, it's never for clout. It's never random. It's always part of a bigger picture. And if that picture involves closing this chapter with Drake in a way that leaves no doubt about who stands tallest in the lyrical arena, then every second of silence is adding weight to the eventual impact. Meanwhile, collaborators from both camps are suddenly in awkward positions. Artists who've worked with both Drake and Kendrick are staying unusually quiet online. No birthday posts, no random studio teases, nothing. Even major producers are ducking interviews. Nobody wants to get caught in the crossfire, not when reputations can be pulled into the narrative overnight. Streaming platforms are reportedly preparing for spikes in traffic. Meetings are being held about server capacity. Playlist curators are planning reaction mode takeovers. Even radio programmers are whispering about emergency rotations. Should either artist decide to drop something at 3 a.m. without warning? And that's the wildest part. No one knows when. The uncertainty has become its own weapon. Drake could drop tonight. Kendrick could respond tomorrow. Or, as some believe, the warning itself was the response. A declaration that, no, further action is necessary because the war is already won. But hip-hop history doesn't usually settle on subtlety. Feuds of this magnitude rarely fade quietly. They escalate, evolve, mutate until one party has no room left to maneuver. And if Kendrick has indeed planned a final, career-defining strike, something so surgically devastating that Drake's entire narrative shifts overnight, then we may be on the edge of a cultural event that will be studied for decades. Already, think pieces are being drafted. Documentarians are calling sources. Even academics who study music and culture are marking this as a case study in modern celebrity warfare, where reputation, timing, and cultural capital collide in real time before a global audience. The question isn't just who will win, it's who will control the story. In 2024, music battles are fought in bars, yes, but also in algorithms, in fan armies, in carefully timed interviews and image management. Drake's strength has always been ubiquity, the ability to flood the market so completely that dissenting narratives drown under sheer volume. Kendrick's strength, on the other hand, gravity, the ability to pull culture toward him, to turn a single verse into a week-long conversation, to make silence feel louder than a Billboard hit. And right now, that gravity is pulling everything. Labels, fans, platforms, even competitors into a singular orbit. Everyone's watching one man, waiting for one move. One final blow at Kendrick Lamar at Champagnepapot #KDOTV's Drake #final warning. #hip-hop holding its breath number culture shift #legendary moments. The sound of anticipation has become deafening. It's no longer a question of if something is coming, it's a question of how destructive it will be when it lands. In a culture built on rhythm, timing, and narrative control, Kendrick Lamar's latest maneuver has completely disrupted the flow of the industry. What he's done is more than a diss, more than a shot across the bow. It's a seismic pause, a carefully engineered silence that demands the entire world lean in. Fans, critics, artists, and executives are frozen, staring into a future that feels unpredictable, volatile, and deeply thrilling. People close to Kendrick describe the mood around him as strategic calm. He's not pacing studios, he's not feeding leaks to bloggers, he's not staging dramatic live moments. Instead, he's building pressure. The psychology of this moment is fascinating. By saying less, he's saying everything. Each hour that passes without a response is paradoxically response in itself, one that communicates power, patience, and a chilling confidence. The message between the lines is clear. He knows exactly what he's doing. Meanwhile, Drake's universe has entered a mode that industry insiders call containment. Meetings are happening quietly. PR teams are on standby. Trusted producers are being consulted like military advisors in the middle of a conflict. Drake has always excelled at controlling the story. He turns vulnerabilities into viral moments, scandals into streaming spikes, feuds into fuel for his seemingly endless run at the top. But this feels different. It's not that Drake doesn't have the ability to respond. It's that he doesn't yet know what game Kendrick is playing. And in a war of uncertainty, the one who moves first without full information often loses. Social media has become a living, breathing war map. Timelines are dissected. Studio sessions are speculated on. Airplane sightings and hotel bookings are treated like clues in a treasure hunt. Fan bases have transformed into investigative units, combing through old interviews. Cryptic lyrics, background ad-libs, even visual metaphors from music videos released years ago, searching for patterns. And hidden messages, Hashtags like hashtag hip hop holding its breath, hashtag KDOT, final warning, and hashtag DrakeWatch22 for trend globally within hours, feeding an echo chamber of speculation that fuels both suspense and hype. Cultural commentators are framing this not simply as a beef, but as a referendum on the state of hip-hop itself. Some see it as a return to the core of the culture: bars, precision, a battle for lyrical dominance without gimmicks or ghostwriters. Others worry it could become so personal, so public, that it risks damaging the reputations of two of the most influential artists of their generation. But everyone agrees, what's happening right now is rare. This is the kind of moment that people will talk about in documentaries, podcasts, and history books for decades. A chapter is being written in real time, and no one knows how it ends. Streaming platforms are already running predictive models internally. One leak from an anonymous engineer claims that Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal have flagged both artists' profiles for high-priority surge watch, meaning the moment either one releases a new track, entire interface banners, curated playlists, and recommendation engines will pivot instantly. The stakes are that high. This isn't just about music, it's about cultural momentum, industry, economics, and long-term legacy management. Within creative circles, the conversation has turned tactical. Producers whisper about nuclear verses, hooks that could bury reputations, structures designed to maximize emotional impact while minimizing legal liability. Lawyers are quietly advising both camps to tread carefully. Even sample clearances are under scrutiny, as no one wants a last-minute legal block to derail a track that could shift the balance of power in hip-hop overnight. The generational angle adds yet another layer. To younger fans, Drake represents the soundtrack of their adolescence, the melodic, meme-friendly, chart-dominating artist who never missed a season. To purists, Kendrick has always been the one carrying the torch of lyricism, cultural critique, and uncompromising artistry. Now, those worlds collide, not in think pieces, not in awards debates, but in a direct, high-stakes confrontation where only one narrative can emerge dominant. And make no mistake, narratives matter. In the modern music economy, perception often outruns reality. A single bar, a single meme, a single live reaction from a third-party legend can tilt the cultural balance irrevocably. That's why this silence is so dangerous. It leaves room for interpretation, imagination, and myth-making. Kendrick's quiet confidence feels like a trap that no strategist has yet mapped. Drake's measured restraint feels like the behavior of someone who understands he's walking through a field full of invisible mines. The wider industry is hedging bets. Brands with endorsements tied to either artist are drafting contingency statements. Collaborators with upcoming releases are timing announcements carefully to avoid being overshadowed. Even rival artists are watching closely, some privately hoping the conflict escalates, knowing that disruption at the top always creates opportunities for movement lower on the ladder. Meanwhile, the culture itself, the fans, the forums, the podcasts, the reaction channels is thriving. Engagement is at record highs. Everyone wants to be the first to decode the next move, to react live when the dam finally breaks, to have their clip go viral in the moment that shifts everything. This is more than music. It's participatory mythology. Hip-hop has always been about competition, but in the streaming era, competition is a spectator sport with global reach and instant replay. Through all this, one question keeps resurfacing. What exactly is the final warning? Was it a literal threat of one last devastating diss track? Was it symbolic, a signal that Kendrick has already decided the battle is beneath him, and that any further action would be merciful, not necessary? Or is it psychological warfare at its most elegant, forcing Drake into a holding pattern where every day of silence reads like surrender to some, patience to others, and quiet panic to the rest? Nobody knows. And that uncertainty is a weapon more powerful than any verse. But one thing is certain, When this stalemate breaks, and it will, the aftershocks will ripple through every corner of the industry. Contracts will shift, touring dynamics will change, playlist politics will realign. The culture will recalibrate around whoever walks away holding the crown. Even if no one says it out loud, until then, hip-hop is holding its breath, and every second of silence feels louder than the last dot at Kendrick Lamar. At Champignapoppy #KDOT. Final warning #Drake response. #hip-hop holding its breath. #culture shift. #game on. Game on. The world of hip-hop has always thrived on tension. Every era has had its duel. Jay and Nas, Pac and Big, 50 and Ya, Push and Drake. But what's happening now feels different. Not just because of who's involved, but because of how quiet it just got. The moment Kendrick dropped what many are calling his final warning, the reaction wasn't just hype, it was silence. Not the type of silence that comes from boredom or fatigue, but the kind of silence that comes when an entire culture collectively leans in. Breath held, waiting for a detonation they can already feel in their bones. For Drake, the decision now isn't just about crafting a reply. It's about survival, artistic, cultural, and personal. The Toronto megastar has never been in a position quite like this. He's battled before, sure. He's traded jabs, thrown slick talk, fired off Instagram captions that turned into trending hashtags, but this is chess in the middle of a storm. Kendrick didn't throw a punch for shock value. He didn't drop a leak for clout. He issued a coded, poetic, deliberate message that has every rapper, every label head, every streaming service executive staring at their phones. They just got a call from the future. Industry insiders are whispering that this final warning wasn't just lyrical, it was strategic. Behind the scenes, producers are allegedly clearing samples for tracks that no one is supposed to know exist. Visual artists are being contacted for sudden overnight projects. Studio engineers are working under NDAs so thick they can't even tell their families where they've been. If this is the calm before the storm, the thunder is already rumbling somewhere we can't quite see. And here's where it gets even wilder. Multiple sources claim that this entire situation has moved beyond the two camps themselves. Other artists, huge names, are privately choosing sides. Some are reworking features. Some are asking not to be placed on playlists next to either artist to avoid looking aligned. Some are allegedly preparing verses of their own, not to enter the battle, but to place respectful markers in the cultural sand, acknowledgements that what's happening here is about legacy. It's not just entertainment. The fans, of course, are going insane. Twitter, or X, whatever you prefer to call it, is a battlefield of memes, breakdown threads, and decoded lyric maps. Reddit is a spiderweb of conspiracy boards, pointing out everything from outfit choices to airplane tail numbers to suggest which city the next move will come from. TikTok is drowning in beat flips, mashups, and dramatic voiceovers predicting how the next 16 bars could either save or completely collapse a career. The digital noise is so loud, it's starting to feel like static before a broadcast. Like the frequency is about to lock onto something big. And yet, Kendrick himself is quiet. Not a single extra word. No late-night tweets, no quick interviews, no accidental leaks. Just the final warning, left like a sealed letter on the doorstep of a mansion with every camera in the world pointed straight at it. The confidence that takes is staggering. In a culture where immediacy is currency, where every moment must be milked for engagement. The decision to not speak after dropping a threat is louder than any diss could ever be. This silence has a weight. It turns everything Drake does, every post, every public sighting, every guest verse into a clue. If he laughs, it's read as nervous. He flexes, it's read as overcompensating. If he does nothing, it's read as fear. That's the trap of a perfectly executed threat. It removes the luxury of neutrality. Every move now means something, whether Drake intended it to or not. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, some of the sharpest lyrical minds in the industry are reportedly dissecting Kendrick's warning like it's scripture. Word choice, cadence, rhyme schemes, even the timing of the release, all of it suggests this wasn't just a heat-of-the-moment decision. This was built, crafted, measured, and if the pattern continues, if the threat was indeed a setup, then what's coming next might not just be a response. It might be the final move of a plan that started long before anyone realized a game was even being played. Culturally, the ripple effect is already visible. Playlists are shifting. Streaming numbers are warping as people revisit old tracks to search for hidden contexts. Interviews from 5 years ago are suddenly circulating again, being reinterpreted through the lens of today's tension. Brands that usually align themselves with Drake's clean, polished accessibility are reportedly pausing campaign rollouts, just in case the cultural wind shifts too hard, too fast. The stakes aren't just lyrical anymore, they're economic, reputational, generational. And here's the scariest part for anyone standing in Drake's corner. Hip-hop loves a quiet storm. Flashy responses can dominate the news cycle for a week, maybe two. But quiet, surgical, deliberate moves, they last forever. They etch themselves into the architecture of the culture. When Kendrick speaks next, if he speaks next, it won't be just another track. It will be an event, a verdict, maybe even a coronation. What no one can predict, not fans, not journalists, not even people in the inner circles, is whether this warning signals the end or the escalation. Will Drake choose to disengage, to take the long view and focus on touring, on lifestyle, on longevity? Or will pride pull him back into the arena, where the rules are written in metaphors and the judges are millions of streaming users with opinions that calcify into history in real time? No one knows. And that uncertainty is the point, because hip-hop has always been at its most powerful when it reflects life, not as a straight line, but as a storm, messy, unpredictable, electric. What we're living through right now isn't just two artists competing, it's a cultural mirror. It's art reminding us that power can be quiet, that danger can hum in the silence, that the biggest moments don't always announce themselves with volume. Sometimes they whisper, and the world has no choice but to hold its breath. And that's exactly where we are, breath held, eyes wide, waiting for a sound we know is coming, even if we don't yet know when or how. At Kendrick Lamar, at Champagnupap, hashtag final warning, hashtag hip hop holding its breath, hashtag K.Viz Drake, hashtag culture shift, hashtag history unfolding. And there it is. Kendrick Lamar just turned the whole culture into a waiting room. The only question now is, will Drake answer? Or will this warning echo into hip-hop history as the moment everything changed? Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Drake is cooking something in silence? Or is this the move that finally shuts it all down? Comment what you think happens next. Like if you've been following every twist. Subscribe, so you don't miss the moment this war either explodes or ends with one final verse. At Kendrick Lamar, at Champagnupap, hashtag hip hop drama, hashtag K.Viz Drake, hashtag final warning, hashtag culture onage, hashtag stay tuned, stay tuned.